stop thinking big.
Muted. There we go. So, naturally, we're starting out the same way we did last night, with a muted intro. But spawning down here, we have LawGambit for Team Spinal Tap, and in the 12 o'clock position for Team the Killer Pikachus, it's McBainer. One of these days, I'll remember to take myself off mute. It'll probably be tomorrow. But regardless, we have a fairly standard TDP breaking out. McBainer going for a 1-Rax fast expand, and we see that command center on the way already, and this is a very traditional build, which is, I don't want to say it's surprising coming from a bronze player, but it's not necessarily something that you'll see from a lot of bronze players playing that sort of standard safe style. Instead, you'll tend to see just kind of random timings. LawGambit we actually see looking fairly normal too. He's done 2 early gases. He's focusing more on his 1 base play. He's got 2 gateways. His work at research is about a third of the way down, a little over a third. McBainer has his SCV set back here. This will be able to scout the natural, and he can also just run that in if he remembers it at some point later. We check out the APMs of our players, 44 to 36. That's not actually too bad for Bronze League players. So both of them cranking everything up. And we see this probe getting in toward to scout the 3rd. This is a really early timing. If there was a 3rd base here, I'd be very, very surprised in any circumstance, really. McBainer, meanwhile, is taking double gas back in his main after going for the 3 barracks, followed up from 1-Rax expand. He's getting a 2nd orbital command down at his natural. Safe bunker up at the front, even following up with a 2nd one just in case. Probably mostly because he hasn't scouted that natural just yet. If we look at his vision, we can kind of see he would get just the edge of the Nexus as soon as he gets thrown down. LawGambit looks like he does want to put down that Nexus. There it is. And actually that SCV is not quite in the right position to see that. That's really interesting. So 2 gates in a robo. Going to be the buildings before they expand from LawGambit. And this looks like it's going to be a little bit of a longer game. And as tends to be the case in lower leagues, it takes longer to get maxed out. So going for the early expand builds tend to make the game a whole whole lot longer rather than just sort of longer. McBainer going to be getting all of his add-ons at the same time, which is really risky, I will add. This gives a timing for the Protoss, if they were aware of it, where they could just hit you, and you only got this small pack of Marines. It's 11 total, I believe. And that can be really scary. We'll see the Tech Labs finally finish up. He resumes his production, getting a stim pack very quickly, so he'll probably want to put on some early pressure. Will it be through drops, or will he just go and attack his opponent? That's yet to be seen. But we'll see what our Terran player wants to do. LawGambit, meanwhile, has his first observer out along the way, and he's warping in quite a few sentries. 3 sentries is a pretty good number, and especially in Bronze League, controlling those sentries is something that can really win you games. Twilight Council to follow up as well, and that's a really interesting choice. This SCV is still kind of being ignored back here, but he does see the probes mining from the natural, so we should know it's there, and actually LawGambit has full view over that. So the SCV just scouting peacefully over here. We'll see how long that lasts. LawGambit focusing a lot on these zealots, so I think the Twilight Council might be for charge. There's no forge in sight, so it's not for upgrades, and there actually is the charge coming down. I'm clearly a genius. First couple of Marauders are out for McBainer. He's still only researching Stimpack despite having the 2 Tech Labs. And he's making a 3rd bunker up at the front. This is really interesting, given that the only thing he's scouted is that his opponent has a natural. If he looks up in the main, you don't see any of the tech buildings that you would expect. So he doesn't know if there's a timing coming, so this is just really blind, really safe, I suppose, from McBainer. And it's going to be tough for LawGambit to break that, at least initially. McBainer now going for those medevacs, and it doesn't think he'll do... He may do a 2 medevac timing, which is very common timing, as you'll get to your opponent's base before really the possibility of Colossi, or any more than, say, 1, maybe 2 Colossi at most. We see an Immortal being produced, and again, both players really blind right now. LawGambit has been able to see his opponent's natural at least, but the follow-up really could be anything from here. There are 2 engineering base, although he has only researched +1 weapons, not +1 armor yet. The armor is on the way for the +2, and this is shaping up to be a longer game, a longer style from McBainer. If you're going to do the 2 medevac timing or the 4 medevac timing, you won't tend to get these engineering bays or focus your resources into the upgrades. You will instead just go for an attack, usually with stim pack, with concussive shell, with combat shield. Meanwhile, LawGambit still warping in those zealots, getting a couple more stalkers as well, just in case of something else, but not really revealing his grand plan to us. There's finally the robotics being really finished up, so he will have Colossus path available to him. It's like he keeps pretty consistently getting supply blocked, which is a little bit of trouble. This SC is actually still alive, just worth noting. And both players content to sit back for now. And I imagine this will be one of those games where both players max out on whatever units they want, and then we see them smash their army together. In this case, I think McBainer will have a little bit of an advantage, because he's macroing a little bit better than LawGambit is. 140 supply to 98, and we haven't seen any harassment at all. In fact, 1 worker killed the entire game. It was the Scout Probe, I believe. Extended thermal lance on the way, first Colossus as well, and +1 weapons to go with his +1 armor. It's tough to say which upgrade you really want first in either side of this matchup, as there's not really any defining advantage. McBainer actually has a lot of SCVs. He's got 65 SCVs on 2 bases, which is way too many. It does look like he wants to take a 3rd base. He's just kind of forgotten about that right now. And just looking at his APM, that's pretty impressive, 61 APM for a Bronze League player. So finally starting to filter his units out of the base. He's got 6 medevacs, and it's a going to be a pretty nice timing for him. There's only one Colossus out, a second one actually hasn't been started. This factory not being bothered either. And he catches opponent trying to take this third base. You see both players actually doing extraordinarily well at spending their money. LawGambit banking a little bit of gas, but that'll help him later on. If he tries a Templar transition, he'll be able to crank out 5 or 6 of them as opposed to just 1 or 2. But out comes McBainer at 172 supply. If we look, he's forged himself a pretty impressive macro lead. 104 army supply to 65, 69 worker supply to 46, and McBainer rolling down the middle of the map. We'll go back to production here. The second Colossus will be out, and there's no Vikings to try and deal with them. This probe is actually going to safely stay at the watchtower. That might be the luckiest probe in existence. So congratulations to him on staying alive, still keeping center control as well. McBainer behind this is taking his third base, sort of in answer to his opponent's third. That's a nice scan. He does see the general position of his army, but he does give away that he's trying to attack the third. We'll see if we have an engagement here. The 2 Colossus can do a lot of damage, especially if the force fields are good from LawGambit, but McBainer going to just back off for now. He's rallying some units across the map. He does have a pretty sizable amount of army sitting back at home. He's sitting on 6 barracks right now, 3 reactors, 2 tech labs. So not the most impressive amount of production, but now he's starting to get into that bank. And he could throw out production buildings, he could throw down more command centers. The choice is really up to him. He's getting his +3 weapons upgrade, and that's going to be fantastic. But he needs to be careful, because now that he's maxed, he's letting his opponent get more toward his own mix. The third Colossus will be out. Templar Archives is on the way. I'm not entirely sure where it's located, but it's on the way. There it is. And all of this is just kind of buying LawGambit time to get out more units to be able to defend better. It does look like that probe was finally taken out at the center watchtower. There's the scan coming in. There's only 2 pylons powering all these buildings, so that can be taken down very quickly. McBainer does stim in. You tend to not want to stim to kill buildings, just so you know. But all 3 of those gateways really cutting into his opponent's production. He depowers the Templar Archives, and then the micro from McBainer, a little bit costly there, but it looks like it's going to turn out okay. The command didn't catch him. Force fields are okay, not great. He will trap quite a few of these units, and the Zealots wreaking havoc for LawGambit, and he actually comes out pretty far ahead on that engagement. So let's recap. The initial engagement, a couple of Zealots walked in from LawGambit, were able to engage initially onto McBainer. McBainer was on a move command very briefly as he moved into his opponent's army. Then after that, the force fields were good enough to trap some of the units up against them, and then McBainer was kind of trapped in there with those Colossus. No answer for this. He's got more and more barracks, so he'll get to 11 very quickly. He's sitting on the 13, excuse me, but he'll have one starport, and he's not making Vikings. And that's pretty worrying. He's not making Ghosts either. So McBainer can get into a tough spot if his opponent gets up enough splash damage. Just a handful of Colossus, he's got 4 of them, that's perfect. If he gets up a couple of Templar, gets that Storm upgrade, LawGambit could be in a great position in this game, despite being pretty far behind economically, all things told. The Scout Factory still hasn't been dealt with, the Scout SCV hasn't either. Just kind of weird passivity from both players. 66 APM to 47, so not too bad still. And in comes the Protoss army. There's 6 Colossi, 2 Archons with his army. That's a lot of splash damage. And there's nothing really here that deals with that from McBainer. There's no Ghosts, there's no Vikings. There's no Mech, I suppose, either. Instead, he's just making Marines and Marauders. He's going to get a pretty big upgrade advantage. He'll be at 3-2, his opponent's at 2-1 now. So having a pretty significant edge in upgrades can be fantastic, but he just can't deal with the splash damage right now. Ideally, you want enough Vikings to shoot down Colossi before they're able to wreak their terrible vengeance on your army. Or Zealots warping in. I'd love to see him get another sentry or 2, just so that he can chunk his opponent's army in half again. But he does have 2 Zealots, 2 Archons with his army. That's a lot of splash damage. And there's nothing really here that deals with that from McBainer. There's no because force fields were very good from LawGambit last time, and they allowed him to win the engagement. So we have a little bit of a standoff outside of the natural of McBainer. Getting another proxy dial on. McBainer being sneaky, he's taking this bottom base, which is kind of interesting. It kind of bending around his opponent rather than taking the middle expansion. And here we have the engagement. The bio unit's all stimming in, and they're getting caught against his opponent's army. And this is going to be a tear slaughter. You see the supply drop so fast for the player from the Killer Pikachus. There's still no Viking. Okay, there's a handful of Vikings, maybe two. No, there's only one to try and deal with 6 Colossi. And this is going to be at LawGambit overrunning his opponent's base, even able to remax on his warp-in. The Colossus trailing his way along. And McBainer caught on a move command again during that engagement, cost him the entire front of his army basically. And now having his natural, having his a lot of his production overrun. And there's the GG for McBainer, and Spinal Tap has taken game number 1. Trying this out. Boom! Spinal Tap wins game number 1. So congratulations to them. We'll head into game number 2, a Silver League game, right after, excuse me, I think there's a forfeit. I think we're headed into game 3 after this. I'll have to double check everything, but I think that's correct. So we'll head into another game in just a couple of minutes. So please stay tuned. This is Meristmatic casting CTL.